Hello guys, and welcome back to the another class of our course. So in this class we are gonna talk about very important thing which are string, and we are gonna talk about different manipulations that you guys can do with the string. So as we talked in our last class, strings are simply text that you want. Strings are simply a way that you can add text on your code, and this is why it is very important to understand how we can work with them, what exactly we can do with them, and what are different manipulations that we can do with them. So we are gonna talk about the first thing, storing data in our variables. So storing string in our variables, we are gonna talk about the string storage. After that, we will talk about how we can manipulate it, and after that, we are going to talk about functions. So, what are some different functions? There are hundreds of functions that exist for string, but we are going to talk about the most common ones. And finally, we are gonna talk about some little things that you guys can do. Once again, you will see this at the end of the class. So my goal right now is simply to present you what you can do with string. So let's start. So the first thing I will ask you guys to do is simply open your PyCharm or your any text editor that you guys use to be able to run Python. When it's all done, the first thing we will write down is simply a small sentence, or in this case we write down print. Let's say I love pizza. So we will print I love pizza right now. Simply just run it. As you can see here, we have our string which is I love pizza. Well, you can also store, instead of printing this I love pizza, we can store this string into a variable. So let's say for example we want to create variable that we will name sentence, and we want to store in it I love pizza. Alright, and we can run it. So we can have I love pizza first. So just create our second function, print sentence. So as you can see, the first case scenario, we print I love pizza. So in the second thing right here, so if we run it, in both cases it reading I love pizza. But in the second part right here, what we ask to do Python is add first name sentence I love pizza is stored to the variable sentence as a data I love pizza, and then we ask Python to run this variable which refers I love pizza. So we get the difference. Instead of writing down the whole thing each and every time, we can simply store it into variable and ask Python to run it. Alright, so we can just delete the first part of the code. The next thing that we will talk about is data storage. So even if we change the I love pizza, instead we write down I love pizza and let's say nachos, and we run our code, you can see that the Python will still print our sentence which is I love pizza and nachos. Alright, so I know that you guys understand the first part which is storing data into variable. Well, we are going to talk about the second part, which is in this case functions. So functions are very important part in string manipulation, and we are going to talk about some basic functions that we are going to use for this course. So you will see it's not that hard to understand. You can do some cool stuff with it. Right, so the first thing that we will talk about our first function, which will be upper function. So in this case, what we want to do is simply talk all characters of the sentence which is I love pizza of the string, and we want to put them all into upper characters. So how we will do this? It's very simple. So we will write our function here. So at the end of sentence, simply click on that and we will write down our function. As I said, our function is the upper function. So you just write down upper function. And when you just run this code, as you can see, Python printed I love pizza and nachos in uppercase because we asked the Python to print our code in uppercase. Alright, so when it's done, the next thing that we'll ask you guys to do, simply take some letters in complete randomness and put them in uppercase character. So here we write V capital, Z capital. When it's all done, alright, now there is also a way to ask Python to put all the sentence in lower characters. In this case, how this will work, it's simply another function that we will use. We will write it down the exact in the same way. So let's start from the beginning. We have our print sentence. So this is the code that we ask Python to execute. We have our sentence. We will write down dot second function which is lower. And the next thing that you guys will do is simply run this code. So as you can see, I love pizza and nachos is on in lowercase. Alright, amazing. So right now you know how to put all the characters in your Python string in upper or lowercase. Now let's say that you guys want to verify all characters are in lowercase. There is a way to ask Python to verify this. So you can ask Python to all characters right here are in the lowercase. So how we will do this? Instead of writing lower, we write simply write down is lower. So simply here write is. So this is showing up. So you simply write down print sentence dot is lower. So right now you ask Python if all those characters are in lowercase. So we will run this code, and as you can see, Python returns the false, which means that all characters are not in the lowercase. Alright, but right now let's verify it. If you put all the characters in lowercase, this is very simple. So let's do it step by step. So we have our first part of the code, which is print sentence. We ask Python to print this part of the code. So first thing we will do is put everything that is here in lowercase. How we will do this? Simply write down sentence dot lower. So we have our first part of the code. The second part will be asking Python is all the text in the string is in lowercase. How we'll do this? We'll simply ask him is lower. So when it all done, we run this code and you can see it returns the value true. So very simple. What exactly happened here? You printed sentence, then you ask Python to put everything that is in the variable is in lowercase with the help of lower function, and then you ask Python to everything in string is lowercase with the help of is lower function. Okay, so this is the first thing that we saw today. So right here you know how to put everything in lowercase and verify it. So as you can see, it's very simple to do that. Let's see another function that is about the calculate the length of string. So in this case, This is simply another function. It's very simple to use. So what we will do, we simply write down once again our first part of the code, which is print sentence. We ask Python to print variable. So we will just try it if it works. Yes, it's work. Amazing. So right now, what we will do, we will work with our second function. So it's the function length. So how do we write it down? It's very simple. Then you write len or len and open and close parentheses. So let me explain you what exactly happens here. So in this case, you ask Python to print the length of variable. In this case, the length of variable is 23 because we have 23 character in I love pizza and nachos. Let's say we write down and bike. So we run our code. Right now we have our 32 characters in our sentence. Alright, the next function that we are going to talk about is the function replace. Let's say you want to replace a certain variable right here by something else. So in this case, I will do this. It's very simple. Alright, as I said, the next function will be the replace function. Simply write dot replace function. So in this case, the word we want to replace will be pizza. So very important, you need to write down some letters are here. You can't use capital letters when it's not capital. When you choose the word, simply click on comma and write down the word which you want to replace. So I want to replace pizza by burger. So simply run it. As you can see right now, our app will return this. I love burger and nachos and bike. So very simple to use. Let me explain you one more time. So you ask Python to print this variable in which you will replace the word pizza by burger. So it's very simple to use. Another function that we want to talk about, once again, it's very simple function to use. This function is index function. In this case, if let's say we are looking for a certain character, it will give us the number of characters. So let me show you the real thing. So how we will write it down? It's very simple. We write down our first part of function, which is print sentence. Then we write down index function, and let's say we are looking for the letter P. So in this case, we are looking for letter P and we run it. So as we can see, it's a seventh character. Yes, it's not maybe seventh, but the Python is start the counting with 0, not from 1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and P is the seventh character. And yes, you have to calculate spaces also. So you don't start to calculate by word from 1, you start calculate 2 from 0. Let's say we are looking for a character. In this case, we are gonna to be run it. It's gonna to be 11th character. So if we are looking for something, Python can simply will find out. Let's go. Also that we can look for complete words. Let's say we are looking for this and. So we just write it down. So we run it. So as you can see, the Python returns the value 13. This value is the beginning of word and which is the given word it start at the value 13. Alright, so after all this, you can simply delete this all. So another thing I want to show you guys, it's last thing that I will show you is, let's say for example we have a sentence and you want to print. Well, you want to print a part of sentence at on first line and then at the second line. So let's write down print and let's write down something. Well, once again I love pizza and nachos and bike. Alright, perfect. Well, if you run this, we have our sentence which is I love pizza and nachos and bike. Alright, let's say we want to drop the first part of our sentence. We drop it here and second part is lower. So how we will do this? It's very simple. You simply have to draw this line and write it in. So when we run this code, you will have I love pizza in one line and second part is in the another line. As you can see, we want to do same thing another time in this code. We write same symbol. So if I run this code, as you can see, it's right now running on 3 different lines. So each time you want to ask Python to run a part of your code in another line, it's very simple. You simply put the /n symbol and simply run the code. Right now, you understand how you can manipulate string, and while some string manipulation, we'll talk about some functions right now. We'll talk about storing variables. Well, we have talked about storing string in variables and how we can use it. So until now, you can just practice it. It's very easy to use. There, as I explained, there are hundreds of other functions that you can find on internet with strings. If you guys interested, I definitely suggest you to go on Google and look for those functions and you can practice it. And all they are not very hard to understand and normally they are easy to use. So that's it for this class guys. I will see you in next class.